You're listening to the Why That Work podcast presented by StoryBrand.ai. If you've ever wondered why certain brands, trends, or cultural phenomena find success while others don't, you're in the right place. Every week we unpack why something worked, then give you actionable insights that you can use in your own life. Now let's dive in with your hosts, Donald Miller and Kyle Reed.
Jay Owen, welcome to the show. So excited you're joining us today. I'm going to read this so I don't mess anything up. Jay is the founder of AI with Jay. You're a longtime StoryBrand certified agency owner, and you've made it your mission to equip small businesses owners with practical AI strategies to boost productivity and streamline operations, which, as we all know, leads to growth and success. Jay, thank you for joining us on the Why That Work podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're excited to kind of dive in today around AI. I think this is a topic that so many people are talking about.
I've heard of it.
Talk about it. You've heard of it? Really? It's not in the news, right? People don't talk about it too much, do they? No. But today, we want to center this conversation for people listening around a couple things. But one in particular, I want to dive in with you, Jay, is the trust in AI. It's such a brand new thing. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when ChatGPT first came out, and it was like, whoa, this is something interesting. Jay, I've heard you talk about this, moments of your career when
you say you're old enough to remember. That was like 2 months ago.
It was 3 years ago. I mean, I'm trying to relate to you old guys.
I'm old enough to remember.
I'm trying to relate to you.
You're not allowed to say that until you're 50.
I'm getting there.
I will say this, though. This is a podcast about messaging. We thought we'd talk to Jay around the idea of how to create messaging that's actually accurate and true.
Yeah.
And I don't want to label AI as inaccurate. However, it can be inaccurate, right, Jay? I mean, like you've got to act. It's presenting, and also talk about confirmation bias, right? I mean, you can actually ask ChatGPT to have a confirmation bias around the use of saunas or cold plunges or whatever. And it'll spit out whatever the heck you want it to spit out, and it sounds convincing.
The biased way that it affirms you. That's how AI has been going. And
have you noticed that, by the way?
Well, but they're trying to change it now. You can put some prompts in. We probably should let the expert
But
talk more about
noticed,
this.
Jay, have you noticed how ChatGPT now kind of kisses your butt and flatters you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was comparing this to the social media algorithms earlier today. Social media has been built with this idea of how do we create as much dopamine for people as possible, feed them what they want and keep feeding them to them, And I think there's an interesting piece of that in AI where it's confirmed. We like to be told we're right. And so generally it will confirm that. One of the little hacks I've learned lately, and it may not be needed, a year from now, but is I'll go in kind of the custom memory settings in ChatGPT and I'll say, hey, I just want you to be a little skeptical of the things that I say. Don't always just confirm and affirm me.
You can do that in the settings.
And
that's very cool.
Inside the settings in ChatGPT now, you can control kind of how you like it to respond to you on a global basis. You can also do it on individual projects, but it's super helpful to ask it to be a little skeptical of you and to always cite its sources. Because back in the day being like 12 months ago,
Hey,
back when
Kyle
was young.
Get on him
back
for
when
saying
Kyle
that.
was young 3 months ago.
Toddler. It would hallucinate a lot more than it does now. But thinking about the source of truth and messaging, I always say, everything requires a little bit of discernment. When we listen to a podcast or read a book or watch a movie or whatever it may be, our life experience, knowledge, and relationships help us discern, is this true or not? And so we always want to lean on all those things and not just totally trust what comes out of the robot.
Well, I've noticed that it's saying to me things like, that's a really perceptive question.
Mr. Miller.
I swear it does that. I'm like, I really like this.
And you're like, well, thank you.
Yeah. I'm always like, you can't have a human connection with AI. Then it started flattering me. I'm like, oh, I like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it so? In your opinion, Jay, do you think it's engineered that way? Do you think that's kind of the?
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Sam Altman would never do anything like that.
He would never try to manipulate.
Because you're more likely to want to keep using it. If something's constantly affirming you, and there's some danger to that. We got to pay attention to that in our own lives and minds. Is if something's constantly affirming me, I actually want to pay attention. Same thing with a team member though, right? I don't want people on my teams who are constantly telling me yes and amen all the time. I want them to go, hold on, why are you thinking that? Tell me a little bit more about that. Because I'm not a wanderer. I'm not asking questions. I'm just like, let's go.
Right.
And so I need some people around me who are going to clarify that. If everybody's telling me yes all the time, including the robot, I've got more questions.
So practically speaking, how does someone using AI, how do they, you mentioned it earlier, there's some prompts or some ways to do that.
Go to the back end.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah, inside ChatGPT, there's some settings that you can set around that to kind of customize how it replies. But one of the things that most people don't think about is a lot of people are treating it like a search engine, where it's like, I'm going to submit a thing, get a response, maybe tell it to do a task. What we're not doing is the next step. And the next step is asking it to ask you questions. So for example, hey, what am I not thinking about, or what do you need to know from me to produce a better outcome in this? And honestly, it's very similar to how you deal with a team member. On the DISC personality, I'm a very high D, so I'm just very much like, go do the thing, it's going to be great, and give very little instructions. But I need people who are going to go, hold on, tell me a little bit more about this, and this. That said, one thing I will caveat that with is sometimes it'll give me like 20 questions, and my dyslexic brain looks at that and goes, I can't answer all those. There's too many questions. Just give me the 3 most important questions and give them to me one at a time. I'll literally talk to it like that. And the outcomes that I then get from the AI are exponentially better than its first draft because I've asked it to help me clarify it.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. It's a conversation more than a search engine. How long do you think, Jay, before, I was thinking about this yesterday, how long do you think it is before you open up your computer and AI is no longer a blank box, at the ChatGPT website? It's a person. It's a person that you're having a conversation with. It's a fake person. It's an AI generated, person that you're just going, hey, Don, what can I help you with today? Well, actually, I was thinking about, this, and it goes, oh, I remember you were writing a book about that, right? Yeah, I'm writing a book about that. And trying to figure out how to overlay the Enneagram with the 7 basic plots with Carl Jung's, archetypes, and just kind of can't figure out how to do it. Well, are you thinking about like this? Are you thinking about, I feel like we're months away from that, not years.
Feels like it, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting once it gets integrated fully at the OS level. And there's, not to get too far in the weeds, but there's no question Apple has stumbled a little bit on this, on their release. But
they wanted to own their own, right?
Is
that why they've stumbled a little bit?
Yeah, they're building it internally, and they want it built directly onto the phone, and they care a lot about privacy that other people don't care about. So their core values are actually a growth problem for them right now. That said, Apple's never been concerned about being the first to the party. They want to be the best. Yeah. And so my instinct is it's not even going to be this year. It's probably going to be next year for Apple, and they're going to be a little late in the game, but I do think they'll be very, very good. But to your point, Don, that's what's going to happen. Like, we're going to rethink interfaces. It's not even just going to be like typing into the computer anymore. I've found now with AI, for example, I'm a very fast typer, but I dictate a lot now because the AI tools that exist out there to allow that to happen, I'm 3 times as fast of a talker, as everybody can tell. So it's helpful.
Well, tell us what those tools are real quick, because we're getting into the practical stuff that people can use. Where are those tools that dictate for you?
Yeah, so there's my favorite tool right now. It's cheap and easy. There's a free version. I've got no stake in it. I'm just sharing things that are helpful. It's called WhisperFlow, WISPRFLO.a. I'm sorry, I can't even spell. It's not helpful. You'll figure it out. Just search WhisperFlow AI dictation. You'll find it. I'm dyslexic. I can't spell. But I have a whole list.
Is that a website or is it an app or what is it?
It's an app that you can download, and it actually integrates right at the OS level. So what I mean by that is anywhere that your text cursor is on the screen, you can just hold a button down on your computer and start talking. And the beauty of this is historically dictation has not been very good. So it's so inaccurate, it's almost not worth it. I'd rather just type. This is so accurate. You don't have to you don't have to mention punctuation. You just talk with a steady stream of consciousness, and it will, with 99% accuracy, dictate that for you with correct formatting and punctuation. But I've got a whole list of these tools that I offer to people just as a free download of things that I use.
Where do we get that?
AIwithJ.com. AIwithJ.com. You can download that list, and WhisperFlow is one of the things on there. It's my favorite little hack, and all it does is dictate what I'm saying out loud. It's great.
Well, yeah, we'll put that in the show notes too for people if they're looking for those resources. Jay, I'm interested how there's been such a movement from, early on, it comes out, AI comes out, and then the adoption of trust moved very quickly for people to basically like, this is their, whether it be psychologist, coach.
Well, it'll create such a convincing argument. We recently saw an AI-generated image of an explosion near the Pentagon. It went viral, and it briefly actually moved the stock market before being debunked, which shows you how quickly AI can cause trust to just totally collapse. And this is, by the way, the #1 research tool beyond Google just immediately, probably. I mean, I say that anecdotally. but I would imagine that's
It's got to
true.
be.
Yeah, it's got to be. And I'm wondering how do we trust messaging now? I mean, how do you actually trust that this is the right nutritional plan and that this medication will actually work for me? And people are the stakes are extremely high.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting because, historically we've been on this search for knowledge as human beings. We put people in schools to memorize things and regurgitate them on essays and tests. But that may not be the right education format moving forward. And then who do we trust matters a ton. So I actually think that despite the heavy automation and AI-driven nature of the future, there'll be a resurgence of a desire for people to be in person at
I believe that too.
events because they can trust, they know the person, they want access to the people who actually have experience and the AI. I don't actually believe it's a total separation.
I can see it going both ways, Jay. I mean, we have a coaching certification platform. We are bringing people back in person. They can either do it on demand or they do it here. We're counting on this fact that human beings are going to be together. But more important than that, our coaches growing their business depends on this desire to be with another human being. Now I'm kind of wondering, and I'm like, that'll never go away. People will always want to be together. But I'm kind of wondering if AI can mimic a Zoom call with somebody who's more wise, more experienced than any human being you've ever met. I mean, is it possible that we're going to get together with people in the near future and just go, man, this guy's stupid?
Yeah.
I think we're there. I already do that.
On the technical side, on the technical side, it's definitely possible. It's probably already there or very, very close, But there is a difference. And the key difference of a really good coach as well is somebody who also follows up and holds somebody accountable.
Right.
Now, for sure, the AI could have an automated time sequence where it follows up with you.
It's not the same.
But let's be honest, it's much different for me to swipe away a notification from a robot than to swipe a notification from a human being who I know is sitting over there going, I wonder if Jay's doing what he said he was going to do. There's a certain encouragement of that for me when I know that somebody else is actually thinking personally about me. And while I do think the AI will totally replace the actual knowledge set, it doesn't replace the need for other people to come alongside us and actually hold us accountable and encourage us, because it might put words on the screen, but it's not the same as hearing. In fact, going back to the in-person stuff, I think businesses need to pay a lot of attention in messaging. I've been guilty of, well, I'll just send them an email. But we need to pick up the phone more. We need to show up in person more. We need to invite people in for lunches and for meetings and for gatherings, because we all learned during COVID, as much as this Zoom stuff's awesome and the technology's great, because we can't both be in person today, it's better if we're in person. Yeah. We all know that's true. And I don't think that'll change. I was thinking about this the other day. I saw a clip of somebody talking about interacting with our kids. And they say, it's easy to just send them a text and go, hey, I'm thinking about you. But the AI can do that, and arguably it can do it better than you from an automation perspective, from a consistency perspective. It'll probably use better words than most of us do. Probably not you, Don, but better than most of us. And but if you pick up the phone and call them, or you get in a car and you go to their house, or you get on an airplane and go to them in person, it's the same kind of idea. I remember reading your book, Hero on a Mission, and writing my own, kind of end of life story, if you will. What is not really my whole life story, not just end of life. And in my company's 25th anniversary, one of the things my wife did was she had each of the kids write me a letter. I have 5 kids. They're currently aged 12 to 20. And they each wrote me a letter congratulating me on 25 years.
Oh my God.
And I'm standing in my tuxedo
crying your eyes
the
out.
Whole team there just weeping.
Yeah.
Because my oldest son's letter was basically a version of what I wrote in Hero on a Mission, and he had never read that. Wow. And I thought, now I need a bigger story. Wow. What an incredible thing.
I can see in the near future, I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and let's say she fails a test or something. Me just being in my closet, putting on some shoes, knowing I'm going to talk to her that morning, going, hey, can you give me some tips? She failed a test yesterday. What can I say as a dad that's encouraging? And it's like, hey, Don, here's what you should think about. I mean, it can actually help a lot. I can see how people will become better versions of themselves if they use the tool right.
Yeah, AI for me does a good job of helping me get out what is in my head in a coherent way. Yeah. There's something to be said, though, about the tangible side. I think for me, growing up in the age of social media and working in digital, I'm on a computer all day. There's something so rewarding about going to mow my grass because it's physically tangible. It's a rewarding.
Yeah. And nobody can bother you.
Well, that's
there's
the
an engine
real.
running.
That's the real. Don't tell my wife that, but that's the real secret. Is I can sit on my mower and listen to.
Didn't you mow the grass yesterday? Yeah, but it's growing quick.
Yeah, it's the lines have got to be better. But there's something back to what you're saying is that there's both are good. There's the good side of the digital, the AI. There's something to be used practically there, but the back to the human connection, it cannot replace that.
No. A message isn't just words. It's the person saying the words. And it's how they're saying it, and it's why they're saying it. It's to who they're saying it to. And it's the background that you've had with that person that makes it so meaningful.
If you don't communicate clearly, all your emails, your website, social media posts, everything you're communicating will be ignored. StoryBrand.ai is like the world's best communication expert writing it for you. Imagine having the world's best communicator writing your tagline. Just type in the name of your company, answer a few prompts, and voila. Hey, that's a good one. Use it to write your social media posts, website wireframe, emails, lead-generating PDF, product or service descriptions, anything you need for your business. What would happen to your revenue if every word that left your business was crystal clear and worth paying attention to? StoryBrand.ai is your competitive advantage, so you'll say it clearly. Try it right now and let us write your custom tagline for free at StoryBrand.ai. And now back to the show.
There was somebody the other day that I needed to send an email to that has done a terrific job, but there's just one thing that I didn't feel like was going right in the way they were doing their job. And I spent 5 minutes with AI just saying, hey, how can I do this without negatively affecting this person's identity or the way they see themselves? And, they wrote me a rough draft that I then edited that I just thought was really wonderful and got back a response saying, man, thank you so much. This was really, really great. And, I think it's improving some of our messaging and some of our communicating in that way, if we allow it to do so and if we use it in that way. I want to get some practical tips from Jay because he's the expert. Jay, where are you going? What websites are you going to? Obviously, StoryBrand.ai, we've got a stake in that because we've instructed it with over 100 pages to stick to the StoryBrand framework, start with problem, make the customer the hero, some of those things everybody's familiar with. But I'm wondering, what tools are you also using in your messaging to build your business, to build what you're doing in video, in social media posts, in correspondence with clients, in customer service? Can you just kind of break down some areas that you think are important for business building and the tools that you're using?
For sure. I'm in a place now where, I've been saying for a while, I won't hire anybody at this point if they're not actively able to explain how they're using AI in a way to impact their life and work. And it's pretty wild.
And you know what? Let me just say this. In China, students are encouraged to use AI to do their homework, and in colleges and universities and even high schools here, they're not. I just think that's a giant mistake, right? They're going to pass this up. We've got to figure out how to educate people, even to go into the workforce, because I agree with you. How are you using AI? How are you using it? Well, if you don't have an answer to that, geez, you're behind. You're very, very far behind.
Yeah, especially in our space of creating messaging, marketing, helping promote other businesses. At Business Builders, which is my marketing agency, we've been doing that for decades at this point. But it's always constant change. Like, that's the industry that we're in. If you're not comfortable with constant change, you're probably in the wrong industry. And so our job ultimately is to help other people grow their business. On the AI tactical side, a lot of it is just learning how to use the fundamentals. I think some people get so far out in front of their skis trying to do too many things. It's like, let's just get the basics right first. If you don't have a basic golf swing right, it's not going to matter when you get out on the course. It's what happens in practice. So, for example, things like creating custom projects inside of ChatGPT with specific instructions can help you not have to say the same thing to it to instruct it every single time. Or even creating custom GPTs, or for particular use cases, something like StoryBrand.ai is exceptional because I don't want it to just write any kind of messaging. It can do that, but is it the right messaging? Is it the right structure with a proven framework that we know that actually works? We've been using StoryBrand for about as long as when you first released the original StoryBrand book as an agency, and there's nothing that's been more consequential and impactful in our clients' growth and success than getting the words right up front. I always say design builds trust, but words are what sell. And so getting the basics right inside ChatGPT, understanding how to use projects, understanding how to use custom GPTs for your particular business.
Yeah, will you go into that a little bit? Because I hear a lot of people using custom GPTs. Can you tell me how do you do that and give me an example of how somebody listening would create a custom GPT to perform a task or to get better results?
Well, one thing we know for sure is that OpenAI could have used you, Don, and StoryBrand to help clarify their message, because the way that they label and everything is
really
just
suffering.
horrible.
They're suffering financially, and they're just not catching on around. They could have used me.
I mean, it's working out for them, but it probably.
But
wouldn't
I
work
actually
for the
do
rest of us.
agree with that, even though it's phenomenally successful. It's because they've cornered the market on AI. It's not because they've actually explained their offers very well. They should be. Should be taking over. They should be in every American school right now. But they've not been able to clarify that offer.
Exactly. So thinking about the specifics of like a custom GPT or a project without getting too nerdy or complicated for people, it's just a simple way to store previously described instructions. So for example, if I wanted to abide by a particular style guide in writing, I could create a custom GPT for that and feed it an uploaded PDF or text document that has those predefined instructions. So now when I go back to it, it just automatically abides by that. So for example, our marketing teams have separate projects and separate custom GPTs in some cases for each one of our clients. Well, why? Because we take all of the messaging work that we do up front, which we certainly partner with AI to help accomplish that at a higher quality, higher pace outcome that's more affordable for the clients. But then we store that in a custom AI tool, which is really just a project inside ChatGPT. Now that project knows that client. So when our team goes in and goes, hey, here's a project we're working on for them. What are we not thinking about? What do we need to improve? Hey, take a look at these analytics for this. And now we're able to, our internal team, I always say at the agency, are leaders, managers, and strategists. And so their job is to partner with all kinds of people, contractors, and all kinds of robots and AIs to create the best possible outcome for the client. And so some of those little basic things inside of understanding projects and custom GPTs are a complete game changer.
So you could actually take a document, like I've got a client that is in national security. And so the tagline or the controlling idea that we came up with was intelligence means victory. So you could actually take a document and drag it into that and say, hey, can you actually add the controlling idea to this document before you release it in the form of a brochure or a congressional report or whatever? And it would filter through that because you've created a ChatGPT to do so. That's
and
really
it's the same
good.
thing with I have a large church. It's one of the folks I get to work with. And we have these big series planning sessions where we're deciding the title and what music's going to be used and all these different things related to the main message. And it's a particular format that we use. So I've trained that project inside ChatGPT on that format. So when I feed it a new series, it just immediately knows what format I want the responses back in. I don't have to re-explain it to it.
Good. I've always, with StoryBrand.ai, when we were talking about that, I always thought our competitive advantage was what it was informed on.
Yep.
And
that's right.
When AI
won't let you play the hero.
No, and I said, we talked about this. It wasn't just me. We all were saying in the room, we're never going to compete with OpenAI. We can't compete with them. They have billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But our competitive advantage is what we trained it in, and I love that because it never lets you play the hero, but it's also trained in the entire framework.
Well, you can do what Jay is saying in the sense that you can say, here's the brand profile for
brand script.
Here's my brand script, brand profile for this product and this product and this product and this product, or this client, then this client, and this client. And you go back in and you can start working under that client's profile. So now you've got all their lead generators, all their emails, all their landing pages, all organized really well. So it's not just the framework that it's obeying, it's the way it's organizing the information, where a ChatGPT, all it has is the past searches and prompts that you've created. This is much, much more organized.
And what I love about that, I was talking to a buddy this morning, actually, and he works in the music industry, and I was saying, imagine a world where you have a brand script in our language, in our terms, where for your label, and then you have one for every artist.
Yes.
So that's a partnership with AI right there, where now your marketing team, they're not just making it up as they go. They have a very specific brand script that they've created a tagline. They've gone to soundbites. They've gone
what's
through
amazing
all of
about that? What's amazing about that, and Jay can speak to this probably very, very well, is I will go in and help a client figure out their brand script, figure out the controlling idea behind that brand, figure out their tagline, all that kind of stuff. And then in the room with me creating that are 6 or 8 people, but their comms team and their marketing team may be much larger than that, and they weren't in the room.
Yeah.
And so now we've got stuff hitting the market in front of customers' eyes that are not on on
Yes.
on task, right? They're not on message because they weren't in the room, or they just don't know how to do it because they're not a good writer. And control, the OpenAI interface through StoryBrand is making sure that it's doing message consistency work.
Yeah. So practically, Jay, I want to ask you this question as we were talking here. When you're an agency owner inside of StoryBrand, people listening to this might have an agency they're running, or maybe they're working with clients, or they're running their own business. From a practical standpoint, when you when you start working with someone, or you're working with your team, are you guys spending more time setting up these custom GPTs, or, kind of setting up on the front end that technology to set you up for success? Is there some practical things you found there in this age of AI working with clients? What are some kind of tips you could give around, as a team thinking about how to set this up for their organization?
Well, one of the things that we found that's great about StoryBrand.ai, for example, is we'll have clients that will come to us who have kind of already done a draft inside of there, and they feel pretty good about it, but they want to know that it's right, and then they want to know how to actually implement these things into functioning
tools. What
tools.
do I do with it?
In fact, Chris, he's been with me for 15 years, he really runs the agency at this point. He was with a client the other day who had done most of the early deliverables inside StoryBrand AI, and they were really close to where they needed to be. But a little discernment, a little conversation, a few tweaks. So what it allows us to do is get further faster. So instead of taking weeks to complete something, we can do it in a day. So we can end a strategy and training session with a client and a discovery session and be done with the blueprint, and then know we've got the right messaging in place. Now we can go build the things, create a great website, create some great videos, get them in front of the right audience. And so that planning phase that maybe used to take weeks to get it all done, we're now doing it in days. And the client's getting as good of a result. Like, let's not confuse the outcome. If anything, they're getting a better result because we're partnering with AI, and we're very open about this with clients. I'm not trying to hide it. I want to be on the cutting edge.
What's interesting is I am now in the process of creating a lead generator that identifies listening rooms for a high-end hi-fi stereo company. I'm creating this as a side project. This is a friend of mine. He makes these incredible speakers at Oswald's Mill Audio. They're just unfreaking believable. They're the best speakers in the world. And I'm using AI to do it, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm at a point where I'm just like, well, I can't do anything with this. It's got to be laid out. It's got to be turned into a PDF. It's got to be visually beautiful. Somebody's got to go into Dropbox and get these images and match them. They've got to research which components out of Oswald's Mills components that they can use if people don't want to spend the money. You can just go to Amazon and get this one and hook it up to these speakers, and it's going to sound just about as good. Those sorts of things. I'm just like, hey, I can't do any of this. And so I literally emailed one of our guides and was just like, hey, can I hire you to actually, which is living proof AI did not take your job, by the way.
Yeah, and I still think it's funny how fast it's moved, because there's still this, my wife is a coach, and one of the things that she is intentionally, I was talking to her, is like, hey, your like session recaps, you can just use AI to write that. She's like, well, I start with it, but then I go back in and spend 2 hours editing it. And one of the comments she got back.
That's why she's a great coach, quite honestly.
Well, one of the comments she got back from a coach, or one of her clients, was, I appreciate that you didn't use AI to do this, that you spent the time. And so we're not on the other side, but there's almost this side of, again, there's got to be the human touch. And I still think that that's still your competitive advantage.
If you wanted to do the work for you, you're going to look really lazy and the writing's not going to be good. But if you use it to enhance what you are doing and enhance your own creativity, imagine taking a drug and you're 10 times more creative and perceptive. That's what AI is. It will allow you to do that.
Yep. So Jay, people listen to this, there might be a sentiment of, this all sounds good. I'm a little overwhelmed with all the options out there. For people listening to this and maybe in the beginning stages, or even, they've been using AI, give me some advice for the people listening of like, where do they start? What's your advice on like, where should I just start into this process of AI?
Yeah. So one of the things that I always say is we have to rewire our brains a little bit. So when you think about the way Don just described partnering with the AI, it's exactly right. He's thinking about it from the context of, this is someone else. Give me a little leeway. I know it's not a someone, but sort of, who's here to help me refine and polish my ideas, And I think people can get down these rabbit trails of why it's good or bad. But at the end of the day, Pandora's box has been opened. And so it's not a question of should I use it or not? It's how can I use it for good? And so starting with just the basics, I think it's easy to feel behind. I feel behind sometimes. I mean, I was leading a keynote on AI at an agency retreat recently with a ton of agency owners and leaders in the room. And my thought is, most of these people know more than I do. And then I start talking about a few things and they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know this was possible. And so don't feel behind. The example I gave somebody the other day was they were like, oh, I just feel like it's too late for me to get in on using AI to be effective. And I'm like, no, you're at the very beginning. It's like when somebody—
Well, not only that, but you can catch up in an hour.
Exactly. You could have bought Bitcoin at 25 cents, but at $100, it was still a very good deal, But at $100, people looked at it and thought, I missed the opportunity. It was 25 cents, 6 months ago or whatever. This is where we're at with AI. We're at $100 going to $1 million. And so the question becomes, how do I augment this into the things that I already do? How do I use it as a partner to assist? Last weekend, I did a little 2-hour workshop on just the fundamentals of AI because I had so many people asking me about it. And it was awesome. We had a ton of people show up and I just worked through the basics because I think it's easy to feel like all these terms are thrown around like LLM and GPT and all this stuff. It's very nerdy, frankly. And I'm a nerd, but even for me, I'm like, there's a lot of new terminology. But we just need to simplify it and think of it as a partner who's here to assist us in our own creative endeavors. It doesn't destroy creativity, it unleashes it.
Jay, you have a company called Business Builders. You guys do marketing and you help small businesses grow. Where can people find out about you?
Yeah, you can go to businessbldrs.com, businessbldrs.com. The agency's been around for 26 years now. I love it. We get to help small, medium-sized organizations all over the country clarify their message so they can get attention and acquire customers. And I just love watching small businesses and nonprofits and ministries grow because people are accomplishing missions and getting stuff done. So it's very exciting.
And Jay, remind us where to go for that resource on AI that you created.
Yeah, I've got a great download with tons of resources at aiwithjay.com, totally free. You can download that resource, aiwithjay.com.
Jay, thanks so much for having me on. I hope now next time, I think you're probably just going to ship your doppelganger and he's going to have AI back.
Maybe.
He won't even know he did the interview.
It might not even be him right now. I mean, to be honest with you, where he's going.
I've suspected you're not real for a long time.
That would be awesome because I'd be playing golf right now. The real Kyle would be playing golf right now if he could. Jay, thanks so much for joining us. This has been really great.
My pleasure.
And as people listen to this, I think the big thing I'm taking away is just start.
Yeah.
Start somewhere.
Well, ask yourself, what do I do? I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I write.
Yes.
And that's where you use AI. Just start using it there. You don't have to go figure out like all this other stuff that people are using it for. But what do you do? And now how do you supplement that?
Thanks for listening to the Why That Worked podcast presented by StoryBrand.ai. If you like the show, follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're enjoying this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment letting us know what you think and what you want the guys to talk about in a future episode. Curious about how StoryBrand.ai can help you create clear, effective messaging? Well, you can try it out right now and create a free customized tagline for your business. Just go to StoryBrand.ai. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.